Hi, everyone. Welcome back to today's episode. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Mohawk Matt, and I'm also here with Ryan. So we're going to be just jumping right into the podcast. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you. How are you doing? How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for today. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So the first thing is just introduction, just introducing yourself, kind of just sharing a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of just jump in.
My name's Matt. I'm from the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in like the late 80s through the 90s. Middle class family. I don't have the sob story of growing up in the hood or nothing like that. I kind of took myself to all the trouble I got into.
Yeah.
You go by Mohawk Matt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you get that name?
Well, I used to have a mohawk, and then I started thinning out when I was in jail. So I tattooed the mohawk on my head in mohawk letters.
That's cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Painful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question. Have you ever known anyone that struggled with mental health or addiction throughout your life?
Yeah. I mean, most of my friends did. I'm one of them.
So just maybe share a little bit about your addiction, how it started.
Good Lord. My addiction, I didn't try any substances until I was like 20, 21, I think. I grew up with graffiti, private school. I got into graffiti really young in the valley in the 90s, and graffiti quickly turned into gangs in the 90s in that area where I'm from, and I got stuck in it. I didn't want to be a part of it, but I did it, and I got stuck in it, and but I was selling drugs. I was kind of like a very functional, straight edge gang member who didn't do drugs, so I was very reliable. I was someone that they loved, they counted on. I could put in work, I could sell drugs, I could make money. And then one day, peer pressure, my homeboys were always like clowning me. You know, the one thing they could get me on is, oh, you're just a bitch. You don't try. Why aren't you smoking crack like the rest of us? You know?
Yeah.
And one day, I don't know what it was, but I think I was 20 or 21, and I tried the first drug, no cigarettes, no weed, no beer. I smoked crack.
Wow.
My life was immediately ruined.
Wow.
I'm talking, it took about 1 year. I lost my drug dealing business,
Really?
2 Cadillac lowriders. Girls walked away. I became one of the star gang members to like one that people were like, dude, get this dude out of the neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah. Crack cocaine in the 90s was a lot different than some of this stuff that's going on today.
I think it's so crazy how he talks about it's so common about the peer pressure, because you said that it was something where it's like
Well, peer pressure is a big part of it. My friend Chubbs, who I love him and hate him at the same time, he was relentless over the years, and finally he just caught me at that right angle. And I had 3 scholarships to go play baseball.
Really?
Yeah, and I was a very weird kid. I'm a white boy that grew up with Mexicans.
Okay.
I'm heavily involved in graffiti. I'm into gothic, new wave, 80s music. I'm listening to Depeche Mode. Like, I'm really weird, and I played baseball. So figure all that out, and then figure this guy being able to catch me that one right time in the front seat of his lowrider.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? Whatever. Let's just kick it off with crack.
Did you feel like you were at any point, I know you said you're a drug dealer, like you were reliable, but did you ever struggle with anything mental health or feel like?
I don't think I had yet.
Okay.
I feel like mine came on with drugs in prison and stuff like that. And then having some friends shot in front of me kind of affected me mentally bad.
So I know that you shared you kind of grew up in a middle class, but share a little bit about your childhood, a little bit of, if we just backtrack a little bit.
My childhood was great. I went to private school. I was an altar boy in a Catholic elementary school.
I went to a private school too.
Yeah, my dad was an Air Force Vietnam veteran. Worked his whole life. My dad just retired. I'm talking 77 years old, finally took boots off. My mom too went from working in the phone company. If anyone's old enough to remember when you actually had to call an operator.
Yes.
She was a phone operator, and then retired to become her own psychologist. They bought a restaurant together. They run a restaurant now.
Wow.
But like, I come from like a working class family.
Wow.
And I just was always, it's not, I say this and I've gotten flack for it, but it's my truth. I don't blame this, but part of it is I was one of the only white boys who grew up with Mexicans, so I was always struggling to understand my identity. I never felt like my eyes were brown enough. They were blue. Why are my eyes blue? Why is my hair blonde instead of brown like all my homies? I never fit in, so I struggled harder and harder to fit in. And in the late 80s through the 90s, that culture that was coming up in LA was really hard on people. So I struggled more to maintain being a white boy and adopting into this other culture that I'm not really a part of, but I'm on the fringe of. And I liked it.
And what made you feel like you wanted to be a part of that
that's
culture?
All I knew. That's where I grew up. I wasn't growing up in Beverly Hills or like Valencia, California. I grew up in the middle of the San Fernando Valley between Mission Hills and Sun Valley, where there wasn't that racial divide, I guess. It was like Mexicans and whites were like all together over there.
Yeah.
We were all bikers, gang members, whatever you were into. We were all together. In the 80s and 90s, that's how it was. Now, it might be more different now if you branch off into the suburbs, but back then, That's all I knew, and I loved it. And it's kind of defined me who I am today, and I'm proud of it.
It's so true how your environment like really shapes you. You know, and it's crazy how like you're talking about you needed that acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people start off like that because you're saying like your background isn't really coming from the substance abuse background. It's something you fell into just from your environment. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, you know?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is like I've learned when I tell my story can affect. There's a lot more people like me out there that I've hit and I've touched with these podcasts. Yeah. I do more good with podcasts than I do by going to meetings.
Wow.
I touch more people. I get messages from moms, from people that like, dude, I was the only white boy in Pomona. I grew up the same way as you. It's so nice that I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of good feedback for that.
And everyone needs that some type of example to say like, you know, if you came out of something that it can happen for them too. Or like you said, a mom believing for their son. Or
those are the best messages I get from
moms. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. Okay, what about, let's kind of go back to your first time using. You said you first started using, and then kind of just take us on that journey from when you first started using.
So it was crack. And like I say, within about a year, crack cocaine, like, I like to talk about my drugs because I don't have anything with like the new drugs, the fentanyl, and I know it's an epidemic and I understand it, but like I can't relate to it.
Yeah.
So people always ask me to go support their fentanyl causes, and I'm always like, you know what, I'm going to pass because I can't relate to that. I like to be a part of stuff that I can relate to.
Yeah.
And we had crack, we had coke, we had meth. Meth was constantly changing into some weird thing, and then we had heroin. And the crack was where it started for me, and crack was extremely dangerous in the 90s. I'm talking like that. Remember that scene in New Jack City? Are you guys old enough to watch that?
Yeah.
With Chris Rock, where he's huddled, sweating in the corner, smoking, shaking.
Mm-hmm.
That was me for a while. That drug takes you get about 3 or 4 days of enjoyment when you start smoking crack. Unlike like meth, where you get like a few months and you can enjoy being weird, sex, projects, all that stuff. Crack, you get about 3 days of enjoyment before you're immediately slammed into the corner of overwhelming paranoia, hiding under the car, looking on the carpet for pieces of crack that you didn't drop. Crack is an extremely depressing, scary drug, and that was the first thing before. I had never tried a joint. I had never tried a beer, a cigarette.
Wow.
My first substance in my body was crack cocaine.
And what made you, I'm just curious, when your friend said, just try it.
It was
just
popular.
Try it.
Unfortunately, that was the popular drug at that time in my area. Okay. People were also crushing it up and putting it with marijuana, calling it Primos or something like that, I think. But that was just a way for them to lie to themselves and say they weren't smoking crack.
Got it.
So it was a, like bougie way of saying whatever.
Yeah. So during that time period, kind of give us some stories that you feel like you just vividly remember. And then
I can remember, like I said, within 1 year, I lost my drug dealing career. I became a reliable, good gang member who had kind of put his graffiti career on hold. And I'm the guy they don't want around. I stole everything. I don't care who you were, I'd steal from you. I'd beat you up to get stuff from you.
Really?
I was violent. I was not reliable. I was a thief. I would have harmed my own mom and dad, your mom and dad. Everybody was in danger if I needed money for crack.
Wow.
Really?
And it's just, I was a horrible person, and I have to own that.
Wow.
It's part of the reasons why I speak out about a lot of these groups who like to go out and hand out crack pipes and needles. I don't think they understand what they're doing when they're giving them these supplies. Because I can tell you right now, you give me a crack pipe, that's 2 weeks worth of crime and physical harm and damage I can commit to people and the public on the street. Wow. It takes that much work to fill those free crack pipes and needles with drugs that they give you for free. Yeah. But I for about a year, I remember I would abuse my mom, my neighbors. Everywhere I go, I'd steal cars to get there. I traded my car for crack. I almost got shot and killed 3 times for giving them fake jewelry and fake stuff I'd found. I'd try and trade for crack. I think it ended one night where I had my mom pick me up. I was walking around Sepulveda Boulevard in the Valley, and I was barefoot.
Really?
I traded my new Jordans for crack.
Were you homeless, or were you living
No, I've always had. Whenever I could make it all the way home, I could get there, but I just wouldn't go because then I know it's that much farther to get back to get more crack.
So then where would you stay?
In my car.
Really?
Yeah, I just park and stay, or get a hotel, or shack up with some stupid girl that probably was a hooker, was lying to me.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? I had no idea what I was doing. I was just surviving by the hour back then.
So how would you get your money?
Steal. I would steal. I would get I get money from the Navy because I'm a veteran.
Okay.
Every month, no matter what, I get about $1,000 from the Navy for the rest of my life.
So you knew okay, I already have this. I
would tough it out for 2 weeks and then my money's there. Tough it out for 2 weeks is my crime. 2 weeks.
And how was your parents with that?
They were at their wits' end. My dad was just, he still isn't over it to this day. The shit I've done, yeah. And I remember one of the last days I called my mom. I was barefoot. I traded my car. They couldn't find my car. I let these drug dealers take my car. They eventually found it somewhere in Tijuana. I traded
really?
Who knows what? I don't even want to know what they were doing with the fuck. I traded my Jordans. I'll never forget walking up to this drug dealer, this little paisa. His name was Limon. I remember because he was like my friendly drug dealer. Limon was his nickname, yeah. I gave him a Rolex that I had been saving. And we're talking like a $7,000 stainless steel Yachtmaster Rolex.
Yeah.
With the diamond for the 12. It's a really beautiful watch, but it's a simple Rolex.
Uh-huh.
I traded it for a $20 piece of crack, and I'll never forget being extremely happy.
Wow.
Happy, joyous. I'm like skipping away like a little dwarf after I got this piece of crack, and I smoked it in one hit, and I turned around and I'm like, the $7,000 hit I just took.
So this whole time you're kind of doing all this alone, or you had a group of friends you were?
You don't have friends when you're on crack.
Okay.
Nobody wants to be my friend.
Yeah.
No way. I couldn't have a relationship to save my life. I'd have to pay to have sex if I wanted. Nobody's gonna entertain me at that point.
So I'm just going back to your story about your Rolex story. It's just crazy how what addiction does. You know,
it's the thought that I was extremely happy to trade it for that, and after it was gone in one hit, I was like, oh well.
Yeah, like what did I do?
But it was just at that moment it didn't matter.
You just didn't even care.
Yeah, and then I ended up barefoot. I traded my Jordans. So now I'm wearing my socks. I had peed in my pants probably 3 times because I'm more concerned with hustling, asking people for money or stealing something to trade it for money. So I didn't even realize like I had peed in my pants. I remember calling my mom, collecting on the phone, and she shows up to pick me up. And this is how bad my addiction is, and this is what people need to hear. I made my mom buy me crack just to get me in the car to promise her that I would go home and sober up. And I smoked the crack in the back seat of her car while she's driving.
Wow.
My mom was fucking like just blowing her shit. Like I could never ask for forgiveness for that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But she did it. And then the fucked up thing is I remember when I got home, I found a way to leave again.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So you've been through a lot with that. That's crazy. So
yeah.
Let's get into
tip of the iceberg though, because then it went to meth. That's even a million times worse.
Well, I was gonna say let's get to the turning point. Like when was it? It was usually went into.
Well,
meth,
one of my boys had a bright idea. Hey Matt, you're really bad on crack. Let's help you inject methamphetamine. So I jumped.
Goodness.
Mind you, I didn't take any vacations smoking pot or trying to be an alcoholic like some people would.
Yeah.
I just
so
went.
you're just at your run, was it just every day using?
I just nonstop for years and years and years.
So then what happened when you get from crack to meth?
Well, that's a whole nother journey. I was able to go home. See, the thing about meth is, even though I started slamming meth, I went from smoking crack to slamming meth. It's a better high. It's more sexual based, so you're kind of horny. You do weird stuff, and then you can get a lot of projects done. But the thing about meth is when you're starting meth, you get about a good 6 to 8 months if you can actually function. So now I can do this and go home and maybe have a part-time job. And so it's actually, I hate to say this, but if you understand addiction, you understand it's way more dangerous than the crack. Because the crack, you're immediately torn apart. You can't function. With meth, you can kind of hide it and function and still fuck people over.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to people all the time too that they have a job, they have a family, they're on meth, and they're using, but then they're back to working.
That's probably in the beginning because that lasted about maybe I'll say a year on meth. I was able to be functional.
Really?
After about a year, I'm insane.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I do a shot of meth, I'm having sex with someone or watching porn, and that's one of my triggers. So I stay away from sex, no strip clubs. All that stuff becomes part of my addiction now. So I have to watch all that. But it focused on like sex, and then immediately would turn into about the second hour on meth, violent. I'm finding ways to rob you and terrorize you.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, did you get arrested for any of these crimes?
Numerous times on meth, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I went to prison 2 times. One time for 3 years and 8 months, got home another time for like 3 years and 6.5 months.
And what were you charged for?
Theft, vandalism, I don't remember, shoplifting, assault, stuff like that.
So how many years total were you in prison?
19 years.
19 years. So when did you get out of prison?
January 13, 2013.
Oh, wow. So what was the number one time you could say I hit rock bottom?
Okay, that's the end. I hit rock bottom, which is the most important part. That's why I tell people you can't help someone. I hate to say it, but when people reach out to me, you really can't help your loved one. They have to be at the bottom. Until they're ready, nothing you can do, nothing you can buy them, no rehab you're going to pay for, no beautiful Malibu stay vacation is going to help. No kid they have, no wife. There's nothing they have that you have, and it doesn't mean they don't love you, but they're not capable of hitting it until they hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
I had been home from prison. I had PTSD from prison, extremely bad. I got involved in a lot of stuff in prison, really violent, really bad. And when I came home, I was really fucked up. And my mom had moved to a new home in Valencia, Santa Clarita. And she had this beautiful room ready for me. And I proceeded to turn that room into a prison cell and have drugs brought over and have girls brought over so I could just be with a woman for like an hour and kick her out.
In your parents' house?
In my room at my mom's house while I'm on parole.
Okay.
I caught a couple violations. My drug habit got way worse. The meth. See, what I also didn't learn is coming home from prison, the meth is way worse now. Over the years, meth has changed. The chemicals that they make meth with, like today, if you see what's going on, it's like it's weird.
Yeah.
The meth is getting worse and worse and worse. So, and that happened while I was gone. So now I'm injecting a lot of meth. It's making me schizophrenic.
Wow.
I'm like this close to, my mom said, being committed schizophrenic.
Wow.
Yeah, it was making me make up scenarios and violently come after you, and like there's nothing going on.
Do you like remember that? Do you remember those times?
Wow. I remember driving down the street and seeing a billboard that I thought was designed for my mom to get a message about me, and I almost attacked her in a car.
Really?
Yeah, that's how bad the meth was. Well, that's how bad I was getting.
Wow.
I was like, it's like meth-induced schizophrenia is the term.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sheesh.
So when was the because it's been a journey. So when was that turning point where you're like,
so there's about 2 weeks towards the end where I destroyed their home, turned it into a trap house. I'm laying on a mattress that's covered with like sweat, piss, dirty laundry. There's a 14-inch monitor that I'm watching porn looping on back and forth. There's no lights. I've ripped out the electricity. I'm sitting in this dark room. And for about 2 weeks, I think I started praying. I was sick of it, and I didn't know how to stop. I was scared. I was filthy dirty. I had ruined my mom's home. I had no relationships now. People would give me meth just to get me the fuck out of there. I'd sneak out in the middle of the night because, like I said, I have a pension from the Navy, and I'd sneak out, go buy meth. When I would show up to that trap house, people would be like, here's $12 of meth. Get the fuck out of here. That's how bad I was.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had been praying to God and Odin because I believe in both. One of you guys help me. I don't know how to do this. And I mean, I'm on my knees in this dark room praying to both of you. Jesus, Odin, please, whoever's real, make this stop. And I remember after 2 weeks on like the 14th day, I did 17 shots of meth and heroin, and they were not working. And I'm registering with the needle. I'm in the vein. Everything's working. The last shot, sorry to be blunt, but I like to be blunt. The last shot I did on the vein of my penis, and again, I didn't miss. And I set the needle down. And you know, when you're a drug addict and you're not missing a vein and it's hitting, it makes you very, very angry. And I was getting angry. And then it hit me like I realized, dude, I've been asking for this.
Wow.
It's not, I don't have the pain from missing the vein, because if you miss the vein, you're in a lot of pain. Or you can get cotton fever or something. And I wasn't missing, so it was working. And I'm realized, whoa, dude, I've been praying for this. And I remember sitting in this dark room and I start fucking crying like, geez, one of you guys, I don't care which one of you answer, but I'm gonna follow both of you for the hell of it now. And I remember knocking on my door, and the door wasn't even connected. That's how bad I ruined this room. The door fell over.
Oh, wow.
And I go outside to the top of the staircase, and I call my mom, and this little old lady runs up the stairs, and it's almost like she had been waiting. And she said, are you ready? And I'm like, yeah, please, Mom. And I start crying, and I'm like, Mom, whatever I got to do, don't put me back in that room. I'll do whatever you want. Please keep me away from that room. All that porn, all that, whatever's in there, throw it away and burn it. I don't want it. And she, you know when you were kids, your parents have that one nice living room you're not allowed to go in with, like the furniture's all covered.
Yeah.
She bought me a new TV and put me in the nice living room with the furniture covered, and said, you're going to sit here. And I had to drink alcohol because I was really fucked up. So I had a few shots of alcohol to get me through. I was on a waiting list to go to detox.
Wow.
And I got into detox, and that was May 18th, 2018.
Wow.
I've been sober ever since.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I even like you sharing, it's like your testimony. It's a story, not only for people who are struggling or even in that same place that you were, but even parents that are like believing for their children and just waiting for them to come to the end of themselves to say, I need help.
Yeah.
You know, like it gives them hope.
That's my best, when parents reach out. I had a lady about a month ago tell me, dude, I saw your podcast and now I can forgive my son. Now I know why he did that. Now I understand. She goes, and now I know why I had to wait till he was ready.
Wow.
And it's sad, but I tell them all the time, I don't know how to tell you guys, because I know how it is to love someone. You got to wait till they're ready. Until they're ready, just be on standby.
Wow. That's so good.
That's heavy, but it's so real what you said. Like a lot, you have to hit rock bottom before that change happens. Because
rock bottom is where it starts. It's like where they plant the seed in the dark with the dirt, and you water it. That's where it starts. I hate to say it. People try to argue it all the time. I'm going to use church. I'm going to use my baby, my wife. That was great. Let me know how it works out.
Yeah.
But until you've actually hit the place where you know you are physically, spiritually, and mentally broke.
Yeah.
I was willing to scrub shit off someone's toilet if that's what I needed to do to not go back in that room.
Wow.
I told them that I'll pick up cigarette butts. I'll do whatever the fuck you want. I don't want to go back there.
Yeah. When you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
When you're at the end of yourself and you're like, I'm ready. You know, that's when there's so much change, you know? I remember when I stopped like using and drinking, I was just like, I can't do this anymore, you know? Okay. So, I mean, I think last question, if there's anyone out there, what would you tell them? Is there any words of encouragement, anything someone's looking at this video and they're in your position or similar, what would you tell them?
I would tell them just to pray, whoever or whatever you believe in, because the higher power, nobody has any right to tell you what your higher power is, and whatever it is, use it, because it helped me. And now I have 2 of them instead of 1. And you just have to be ready. You have to be ready. You'll know. Trust me. You'll know when that moment comes, because you're gonna feel in the darkest place you've ever felt, and that's exactly where you can crawl back up from.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
so good.
So to wrap it up, too. So what are you doing now? What is your? I know you have a clothing line, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I work for a clothing line.
Work for clothing line. Okay. So what's kind of what are you doing right now?
I work for Sullivan Clothing. I do the social media. I do modeling. Nice. I do the conventions. We have a tattoo convention next weekend in Pasadena.
Oh, nice.
I do podcasts. I have my own show coming out soon.
Nice.
On our YouTube channel, and then I got a couple TV projects I'm working on with the rapper Conejo, so I'm excited about those.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where can everyone follow you if they need more their info or want to reach out to you?
Instagram is Mohawk Matt _SFV, and I think the same thing for TikTok. I'm not really good with TikTok though, so
we're just talking about TikTok.
I have it, but I'm not really good with it. And then I have Facebook. I think is my first name, Matt Camarano. But Facebook, I try to keep for just the people I know personally in my real life.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on Using My Story. Yeah. And if anyone needs any help or any resources, please reach out to us. We have our Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can message us at Using My Story or Solace Treatment Center.